determination. You trained in the off-season with professional sprint coach Jordon Tolman, and during the course of the 1976 season undertake a strict diet. What sort of diet was it, and was it effective?
Well, you have a look at me now.
That'll do that question.
I can remember once at North Melbourne, they said I had to give up drinking the beer, and they said I had to start drinking water. There's no calories in water. Well, I came from the country. I'd seen cattle and sheep and that hanging around creeks. I knew what they used to do in it.
What about what fish do in it too?
I knew about that too, but consequently I kept drinking beer.
Mick, your heart and soul goes into your game right throughout 1976. And North again make the final, this time against Hawthorn. This year the tables are turned and Hawthorn win. What do you recall of that season and the grand final in particular?
Well, naturally it's very disappointing to lose a finals match. You play football and train for the entire year, and really it all boils down to just the finals and the ultimate final. To lose, it makes you feel as though a whole year's work has gone down the drain. I know I was very disappointed after losing in 1976, and I think that made the North Melbourne side more determined to come back the following year. And as everyone realises, in 1977 we won the premiership after tying with Collingwood in the first grand final. I unfortunately wasn't part of that side.
Don't get too far ahead, you've just knocked off 3 questions.
Okay, well I certainly was disappointed after 1976.
Thank you, Mick. Mick, during your career you became a VFL personality. The media loved you, and quite often you were called upon to pose for novelty photos. Here is a mixture of a few of those and a few serious ones as well. Before we go on to the next one, what was Lou doing?
He knew I was very tired, just wanted to give me a lift down the road a bit.
You remember this bloke?
And I'm particularly pleased to be on this program with Ronald Dale and a few of the other friends that have probably said a couple of nice things about you. But I'm just not that type of fella, Mick. I just can't find really anything that I can say that's good about you. I know that you always missed the last practice game before the season. Your mother died 5 times, your father died 8 times, your 4 brothers had cancer and what have you, and you never ever got to the last practice game. And it took Barassi and I about 5 or 6 years to work out that it was the opening of the duck season. And we just couldn't believe a man could have so many relatives in trouble with illnesses. But I do remember, Mick, that you were a nice type of fella and you always looked after your mates. And that was one of the great parts about you. Apparently, I do know the story about when you were little Ernie, who was a really good mate of yours. He was about 5'1", and you can imagine, the audience can imagine Mick at 6'7", and little Ernie about 5'1" used to go away duck shooting. You used to get away together, and I can remember the time you were going through the paddock looking for ducks and waiting and trying to find something to shoot at, and all of a sudden a snake jumped out of the burrows and bit little Ernie right on the you-know-what, right on the private part. Of course, you didn't know what to do, and Ernie thought he was going to die, and you thought Ernie was going to die. It was absolutely amazing. And, of course, you kept mentioning little Ernie that I hope you don't die, Ernie, you know. And Ernie said, go and get a doctor. So you run a couple 100 yards, which took you about 25 minutes to run the couple 100 yards, and the doctor told you what to do. He couldn't come, and he told you to put a little cut right on the private part, and you had to get down and suck the blood out, or the poison out. Do you remember that, Mick? Well, of course, when it came to about Ernie didn't know what to do, and you didn't know what to do, and Ernie kept saying, what's going to happen, Mick? What's going to happen? And you looked down at Ernie and said, Ernie, you're just going to die there. You're just going to die. But that's you, Mick, and I know that you're the type of guy that would be laughing now and sitting back and giggling, because you do remember your duck trips, and that's the type of guy that you were even around the club. You're a likeable guy and everyone loved you. And if you have a good night tonight, I know that'll include about 64 beers. No, 74 beers if you're really in drinking form. And I know that you're going to have a good night. And from Ronald Dale and I, and from most of the guys that we do know around here that respect you, have a good night and we'll see you soon.
1977 was the year of the Tide Grand Final, as Mick mentioned earlier. That was tied with Collingwood. You missed both the Tide game and the replay, which North won. What happened that you did miss those two important matches?
I dislocated my shoulder and...
Didn't have snake poison?
And, you know, I thought by the time the second one came round that I was fit enough, but those other little mongrels, you know, those 5 mongrels, all you blokes know them, match committee? No. They wouldn't pick me.
During your career, you played many slashing games, and an opponent from Collingwood clearly